same information that we present. There are many things where interpretation does differ, and you may have a different understanding of a particular point from the Home Office guidance, but we can share that information, and also we can share our live experience, because sometimes individual will bring something to the chat that will be beneficial for other people. So live experience is good. We try to stay focused on just the subject matter, which is the Windrush compensation scheme and status. We don't want to get into reparation discussion, nor do we want to get into discrimination and racism if people have suffered that. There are different platforms for those conversations. So let's try and focus on the topic. So welcome. My name is Garrick. I'm one of the founder for Justice for Windrush Generation. I live in the northwest of England, just across from Liverpool in Cheshire. And my colleague will introduce himself. Roland, would you do so, please?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Roland Hoslin, co-founder of Justice for Windrush Generation. I live in London, and you will hear from me some point later on as the presentation goes on. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much.
Okay. So it will be helpful also to use the chat. There is a reaction button at the bottom to raise your hand.
But Garrick, sorry to interrupt. Egbert, can you turn off your camera, please? All cameras off, except for the speaker. You want to speak in, please, to get a better audio experience if all the cameras are off. So Egbert, please take your camera off. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Garrick. Continue, please. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So I was just saying that what we try to do in these conversations is to provide you with some information and some guidance based on our experience in dealing with the Home Office and with the compensation scheme. We will present to you some factual information and help you to get a better understanding about the scheme. What I would suggest, please, if you get a pen and paper, to make some notes, because it's important that you make some notes that will be helpful after we finish the call. And you will see the relevance of that as we go through our conversation. So it will be helpful for us to know, using the chat, how you heard about this platform, and also your location, where you're located, whether in the UK or outside the UK. That just helps us to know how the information is reaching out to people, and by what means, whether word of mouth, whether at an event, whether a leaflet, or so forth. It just helps us to gauge how the promotion is reaching out to people. So that will be helpful in the chat. In the chat, you will notice I've given two website information. So we have justiceforwindrushgeneration.co.uk. So please visit that website. That's helpful to know a little bit more about the compensation scheme and status. And on that platform, on that website, you will have helpful information about eligibility criteria, each of the different aspects of the claim, primary, second, close family, deceased estate. Each of those are on the website for further reading. So please do that in your own time. The second website in the chat is Law, Liverpool Advocates for Windrush. and that is a website dedicated to assisting individual with their application process. So that's liverpooladvocatesforwindrush.org. So please avail yourself for that information in your own time. There are other useful information on both of those websites. Please share the information with other people. What we encourage is that whatever you learn or hear from this platform, then please share it with other people so that they can get the information and they can continue to share it with other people also. That's what we aim to reach as many people as we can with our information. So you can help us to do so. Okay, so that's a little bit of introduction about our Sunday chat. And we're going to be going through different aspects of each claim. But just for background, because it may be individual have joined the chat for the first time, so we're not presuming that people know the very basic. So just to give you the background to this conversation this afternoon, we're focusing on the Windrush compensation scheme. And when we refer to Windrush, we're referring to the first generation that came to the UK in 1948. And that was where the Empire Windrush was first known. So that's the first generation of Windrush generation. Subsequent generation who arrive in the UK continuously from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s as known as Windrush generation. However, not everybody accept that terminology. And we know that is the case with many Africans when we have conversation. They didn't see themselves as part of Windrush. It's almost as if it doesn't fit because they didn't arrive in 1948 on any Empire Windrush ship. We know that the people who arrive on different mode of transport don't connect themselves with Windrush, and we have to have the conversation with them to say to them, yes, you're part of the Windrush generation. So many African that came here as nurses, as doctors, to help rebuild this country after the Second World War is also part of that generation. And terminology sometimes alienates some of these people. But yes, the Windrush generation is a loose term. It's not an inclusive term. It is the term that is out there in the public domain. And people associated predominantly with Caribbean people. And what we say to people, it is not a Caribbean issue. It is a global issue. And the way we actually convince people of that is that on the Home Office own site, they have 65 countries. So people from 65 countries is affected by Windrush. And there's only 56 Commonwealth countries. So there's another 10 countries that is part of the British overseas areas, and they're part of the 65 country. So when you have conversation with people, if they're not understanding Windrush, just try to explain to them that it's continuous generation right the way through to the 80s. And that will help them to get a better understanding about Windrush and move away from a Jamaican or Caribbean issue. So that's a little bit of background to Windrush. So I always use this term to let people know I'm second generation. And just use my own example. My parents came to the UK 1957. I came 1967. I have children and grandchildren. So my children are third generation. My grandchildren are fourth generation. Sometimes we refer to those generation as descendants, and that is okay as well. Descendants from the first generation and subsequent. So those are the terminology we use. Either generation, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or descendants. So that set the scene for our conversation. As I said, please get a pen and a paper so you can make some note for yourself. So what we say to people, the first thing that you should be concerned with is your status. You need to check to make sure that your status is correct, it's okay. Now, if there are issues around your status, that is part of the Windrush compensation scheme. So I said scheme. So status is one part, and then the compensation is a separate part. It's almost in two bits. So when we talk about your status, we're talking about whether you have the right to be here in the UK. That's your status. Yeah. A lot of people would try to find out initially from their parents to get some information if they don't know whether their parents had a status or not. We always make this point to people that you need to have some information about your parents and your grandparents. It was useful to have that information. If you haven't got that information, then there are other things that will come out of that. So in order for us to establish who's eligible for the Windrush compensation scheme and status, the Home Office has set out criteria called the eligibility criteria. And I'm going to read directly from the guidance. So to be eligible, you can apply for the scheme if you had, if you're applying for the scheme, you need to be in the UK. So when we say in the UK, first of all, you came to the UK from a Commonwealth country before 1973. Let me repeat that. Do this slowly. And this is where you may need to make notes on your paper. You came from a Commonwealth country before 1973. Your parent or your grandparent came to the UK from a Commonwealth country before 1973. And then the next point is very important. You came to the UK, this point is important. You came to the UK from any country before the 31st of December 1988 and are settled. Now, this word settle is very important because that will establish your status. You're settled. You will come across that terminology often. Yeah, we sometimes hear about right of abode, but we hear about settle. So for people from the Commonwealth country, both their parents and their grandparents need to be in the UK by a particular date, 1973, and they need to be settled. From any other country, by the 31st of December, 1988, and again need to be settled in the UK. Okay. Now, those criteria are important because that is how you become eligible to apply to the scheme. So, in other words, if you arrive in 1999 from a Commonwealth country, you're outside the scheme of Windrush. So it helps us to appreciate, a specific time we need to be in the UK and settle. Sometimes individuals don't know whether their parents or their grandparents had a settled status or any status at all. And sometimes it is the case when they make an application for a passport, for example, and it is refused. And that is when the green flag or the red flag appear. And then the evidence would show that your parent didn't have a status or they didn't apply for a status. And you wouldn't have known that unless they'd tell you that other family member have said. And the only time you came across that is when you make the application yourself and you get a response from the Home Office. Okay. So we always say to people, do have the conversation with family members to find out about your family history in relation to when they arrive in the UK, what was their status, how long did they live in the UK, if they had lived there for a period of time and then went away, if they had died in the UK, you need some sort of history. It's helpful to have that information. So just repeating those two dates, it's important. Commonwealth country by 1973 and settled. Other country by 1988, 31st of December, sometime we say 1st of January, and settled. Okay. Now, that is the eligibility criteria. So having put a tick and say, yes, yeah, green, I'm okay with that, that's fine, applicable to me. The next thing you may want to consider is whether or not you have suffered any loss over a period of time. And when we say, suffered loss, you have to evidence that you have suffered loss. So, for example, if you did not have documentation when you were asked to produce documentation to your employer, having worked in that employment for a number of years, and on the 10th year, you were asked to produce or bring in some evidence that you have the right to be here, and you didn't have the documentation, so you lost your job immediately. They could not retain you. And then that started to snowball because losing your job is a big impact on anyone's life. So that may contribute to you losing your home because you're not able to maintain your mortgage payments, or losing your home because you're not able to pay your rent. Okay. So as a result of that, you have suffered loss. That's just one example. I'm going to bring other people into the call now just to give some other example, what we say when, what we mean by suffering loss. What have you lost? Right? Glenda, are you there?
Hmm.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hmm. Hi, sorry,
Okay,
I
see you.
missed that. What did you
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Sorry.
So I just started by saying I just gave one example of what it means by suffering loss, and I gave an example of a person working in employment and were asked maybe 10 years later or so to bring in documentation to show that they have the right to work and right to be here. And I just want to bring your example of what happened to you to illustrate, person that had a job, was there in the system for a number of years, and suddenly they were asked to produce something that they did not have, and what was been the impact of that is just one illustration of what we mean by impact.
The impact would have been from myself and many others who had been living here were asked to produce a passport with a valid permit in it or visa to say they had the right to live and work in the UK. That would have been an impact on those that they were looking to say they were illegal in this country. Loss would have been obviously any contributions that you had submitted. Loss would have been loss of payment pensions as well. So, and financially, it hit a lot of people because once you've lost your wages, you were in the of losing your homes as well. So those who even had their homes, so some people had businesses and they also lost that as well because obviously there's no money coming in. Well, if once that's your liberty is taken away from you because you needed a passport, you needed validation to say that your status, you were British. Without that, you were lost. So that's part of the impact that it had on many people like myself.
Yes. So employment is just one area of loss. There are many other areas of loss. So, for example, as a result of not having the documentation, having lost your employment, you're not able to find any alternative employment. So you come up against this blockage every time you make an application. It's a no. We don't. You can't get any work. Yeah. So potentially, your work life has gone, completely gone. But there are other things that would impact. So what about your bank account? What about your children going to university as a result of you not having your status? What about driving license? What about driving tests? What about anything that require identification to say, this is me, and you haven't got that, you would suffer loss. We also measure loss in another way because there are many people who could not travel to important dates, whether that would be for marriage, whether that would be for death, whether that would be for university graduation. They could not travel to that location because of that restriction that they had. And as a result, that's loss. When we think about loss, we need to think about loss not as one item, but we need to think about loss in the normal thing of life that everybody are able to do. In other words, the day-to-day stuff that we probably have always taken for granted. Suddenly, it's different. Yeah? And we always make the point to people that when you travel out of the UK and coming back into the UK at the airport, when you're going through custom for clearance and you're asked to move over to this line, please, or to come with me into another room, so that I can interview you. In other words, sometimes it's interrogation, I call it interview. And you spend some time with this officer in this room, and before you know it, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour may have passed with you in that room with this officer, questioning you as to where you've been, where you're coming from, and other question, etc. We always make the point that is detention. If it's over 30 minutes, it is detention. So you may just think it's a normal process, and it may have happened to you over 20 years, maybe 3 or 4 times. Think back and remember and put it down. That is detention, and it's part of the impact you can claim. Yeah, when you actually are putting what loss you suffer, and loss and impact, those 2 words is almost together. And it's only when you start having a conversation with somebody who understand the claim and prompt your mind, then you think, oh, yeah, well, did this happen? This happened to me. I never thought about it. It happened to my mom. It happened to my brother. It happened to my sister. It happened to, so it triggers something and say, oh, I never knew that. Yeah. So please remember that and share that information with other people making a claim. Detention at the airport, anything in excess of 30, I think it's 35 minutes, then it is warrant on your application.
Gary, can I just say that also a lot of people that have come through, be it on their own nationality's passport, when they do detain you, they always put in they document it in the passport. It could be VIPP, which means visa in previous passport because they're unsure, or it could be a W, which you don't think is a W, but it is, which means warning. All of that can be used as to submit if you're going to put in a claim for being detained, and it shows them, because what we have found, some people were given slips and didn't keep the slips, but they had to put something in your passport, so that can be produced as part of the detention if you were stopped at the airport.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. So having established that we fit the criteria, and we are now thinking, oh, I can make a claim, then we need to be thinking about how we go about doing so. So we have what is known as the primary claimant. That's the person, the individual who are making the application for themselves. That's the primary claimant. And the primary claimant, each of the claimant, the Home Office provide guidance per claimant. So primary claimant will have the guidance to go with that section. And the primary claimant guidance is 44 pages. The next one is the close family. They will have guidance. And then after that, you will have deceased estate people who were eligible but have passed, and somebody else will be making that claim. So each of those will have guidance. We cannot emphasize enough that the guidance must be read, reread, over and over, because it's important that you follow the guidance. Now, when we say follow the guidance, what we mean, don't start putting anything on paper without reading the guidance. Yeah? Don't think I can just fill out the form like this without reading the guidance or consulting the guidance or engaging with somebody. In our experience, many claim that fail. It is because the individual has not approached the claim in the way that would justify that claim being really substantial. What they thought, well, yeah, this has happened to me, I'll just fill it in and send it off, and that's it. Yeah. So there is a lot of consideration to be given to the application, what we call the pre-application process, even before you start to write anything on paper, the pre-application process. Yeah. And I always encourage people to get a notebook, yes, read the guidance. And when you read the guidance and start to write some answers, something on the notebook, on your notebook for yourself, and do that in a draft. When you're preparing, I remember doing essay at university, and you keep writing and throwing away paper until you get it right. Yeah. So you didn't just start your essay from start to finish and just finish it, bang, done. No. Right. So what we're suggesting is that you do several drafts before you come to the final that you want to transfer to the application that will go to the Home Office. Okay. And even when you get to that final, we're suggesting you engage with somebody, show somebody, have a conversation, show somebody your application draft, and even better still, reach out to Liverpool Advocates for Windrush, because that is what the advocates are able to do, is to look at your application, work with you to get the best information from you to make sure that the application is a true reflection of what has happened to you over 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 years. Okay. And sometime in the medical world, we always use the expression, get a second opinion. So you go to a doctor and the doctor say this, and you're a little bit thinking, well, I wonder if if he's right. Shall I go and see another doctor, get a second opinion? That is almost the same thing. Get a second opinion on your application. Somebody who's successful, somebody who knows what they're doing, can assist you and help you. Last year or the year before, we were in Preston, Roland and myself, and we met a couple of people from Birmingham who came up. It was a music festival, Preston Carnival. And what the gentleman said to us, he said, I have the application, but I don't know what to do with it. Doesn't know how to begin to fill it in. Okay. So he needs some help. Yeah. And I'm sure there are thousands of people in the same position. Yeah. They might hear something about Windrush. And what we're saying, well, you have to go and read the guidance. And let's face it, not everybody can just go and read something and get the sense of it. Some people will have a range of difficulties that is preventing them from doing that. So it is no disgrace when they said, oh, I need some help. Right? I don't understand this. I need some help. Yeah. So please reach out to organizations and people that can help you. So we're promoting in the chat. You will see two websites right at the start. I put them in. So you will see justiceforwindrushgeneration.co.uk, and you will see liverpooladvocatesforwindrush.org. And I said in the chat only that is for advocacy. That is where we give you specific help with your application, or even telephone conversation just to ask a couple of questions. I didn't understand what this means. What do I put? What do I say about this? Right? Reach out to the advocates and they will help you. So, as I said, the application process is not easy and is no disgrace, because I know people at degree level who said, I have difficulty understanding this whole thing. Right? There's no shame to say, oh, it's complicated. Yeah, it is complicated. I find it difficult to do. Yes, I need help. Having said that, please reach out for help. So the first claim I'm going to talk about is known as the primary claimant. Primary claimant, that's the person making the claim themselves. And as I said, we have guidance of 44 pages. Read the guidance over and over. Start to put on paper as you read it and start to think of what has happened to you. Start to make notes of yourself. Don't fill the application in straight away. Wait until you collect all the information from yourself, because you have to think back of different period of time where things have happened. And that takes time to gather all of that. And can I also say at this point, while you're doing that and thinking of what has happened, that may trigger some trauma of a situation that you had experienced many years ago. And out of that, you might decide, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go down that road. So I'm not even going to bother. I'll stop there. Liverpool Advocates for Windrush, we have a dedicated trauma counselor that assists individual with the trauma while our advocates are dealing with the claim. Let me say that again. So Liverpool Advocates for Windrush have trauma counselor to assist the individual while the advocates are dealing with his or her case. Okay, that is available free of charge to an individual. Again, visit the website and you will see the information there and how to make contact on the website. You've got email address, you've got WhatsApp number, and you've got phone number. So please visit the website. Let me just get back to the primary claimant process. So as a primary claimant, you have to complete the application. The application will start with the very basic personal information that every application or any form will have. And they will ask you for your name, your address, your postcode, that sort of personal information. What we say to people, please make sure that when you put the personal information on paper, it is your full name, forename, and then surname, as appear on your birth certificate. Exact spelling as it is written on your birth certificate. However, if you're known by any other name, and a lot of us would have adopted different names, even Rasta name, and people may only know us by that name. But as far as the Home Office is concerned, they have to check records. And so they will be checking records to see what name that record will show up. So make sure the name is written and spelled the same way it is on your birth certificate. There is place for other names. So as you started to populate the application or the rough copy of the application, one of the most important parts of the application is the bit that asks you about loss. What loss have you suffered or impact? And many people fail to adequately address that. And it's not just putting a one-liner or a two-liner on that section. You need more information on that, because that is the key area that the caseworkers is going to be looking at when the application come to them. So let me just open the conversation now to the impact on the loss. So Glenda just told us about, employment, and we mentioned other things that would constitute loss. And we also want to mention at this point that as a result of what has happened to you over many years, you have suffered mental health that will include anxiety, depression, and other things. And many people have even spent many years in hospital as a result of what has happened to them. And not just themselves, but also other members of the family have been traumatized and had to spend time in hospital. And what we say to the claimant is that if you have spent time in hospital, the records will be there. And also, we don't want you to pay for any private medical report of 40 to 50 pounds from your doctor. No. We want you to go to your doctor and speak with the receptionist. Glenda, I'm going to bring you back in now, because I know you've done this. You want to go to your doctor and just tell the audience what they need to do. That doesn't require any cost, but it will give them a history of their medical records.
Okay, there is every doctor has a system called, I think it's the IMIS system, and it just gives you a printout of when you visited the doctor and for what reason. So you don't need to have access to all of letters, or direct documentation from a hospital or a specialist that you saw. What you do need is just the printout of the dates when you were affected to the present date when you sort of like put in your claim. And that alone gives you the information. So you can highlight certain sections to say, well, I was affected that day and that day. That alone is proof. If anything else is needed, then allow them, because they have access, allow them to give the access to go to your doctor. But if you want to speed up the process, I would say just get a printout, highlight what you think is relevant towards your case and produce that to them.
Yes. So that is your patient record. Will have a list of
It's a printout. Yeah, it's just a printout. Yeah.
Okay? And there's no charge. There's no charge for that at all. You don't even need to see the doctor to get that. Yeah. You can even go to the receptionist and ask, and they will do it for you. No charge. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it's important that when you put something on paper that you have suffered, because what you're saying, well, this has happened to me. Well, I'm going to say to you, well, where's the evidence? Okay, show me, give it to me. Okay, so you have to produce the evidence that you spend time, in this institution or on this particular condition for the last 20 years. You've been treated with antidepressant and different things from your doctor, as a result of what has happened to you and your family. Yeah, the evidence is required. Yeah, that's on medical.
It's easier for them and as well, because we finding, if anybody who's putting in a claim for compensation, is that the team it delays your claim. But if you have all the information, you submit everything, then there's nothing they can come back to you and say, well, it's complex or we're waiting. But I've provided you with this evidence, so I expect you to. I'm not saying they're going to do it within a week, by no means at all. But it sort of like helps you to show, well, I've done everything that was in your guidance and what you've asked me for. I've produced it alongside with this application, just to speed up the process, I would say.
Yes, that's good. That's exactly what we want. The quicker, the more information we can provide, the better it would be for the claim to process. So evidence. Now, there will be a requirement to produce more evidence for different things. And we always say that there are a number of ways that evidence can be found. So, for example, people pay income tax, people pay national insurance. So, those departments have got records. However, there are things that you may not be able to evidence for various reasons. Now, you were working in Birmingham at the factory in 1960. The factory closed down in 1970. The building has been demolished, so it's no longer there, but you were working there. So you said, I worked at this place. Okay. If you have got a pay slip relating to that year, wonderful. That's good. That's evidence. If you haven't got anything, but you're in friendship with other people that used to work there, yeah. So you can actually, it's not just you saying that this place was there. Other people had worked there as well. So now you have able to, to use those individuals to say, yes, that's where the factory was. That's when I worked, blah, blah, blah. And how many people there. Not everything you can produce the evidence for. Not everything. And on this note, I'm going to ask Tanika to just come in around when we think about evidence. There are things that we're not able to produce, but the Home Office was going to make a judgment on certain things. And we've got no control over what judgment that they make on that because we haven't got the evidence. So they're going to actually having to do something with that. Tanika, from a legal perspective, in terms of evidence, burden, etc., can you just explain when we haven't got evidence, direct evidence, what could be alternative approaches?
It looks like she's offline, Garrett.
Okay, all right. She may have just stepped away from the phone. Okay, so what we're saying, as far as you can produce evidence, that's fine, but there will be areas where you cannot produce the evidence. And the Home Office will make a judgment against what you have stated. Whether they believe it or not, they'll make a judgment. And it's very difficult for you to challenge that because you haven't got any evidence to challenge it with. So you have to accept it. Now, the other point we need to make is that the way the Home Office process your application, and in terms of the time and years, my understanding is that they will only go back to a particular period of, they would not go back beyond 1980 something, I believe. So if you were trying to substantiate a claim beyond that, say 75, 76, it's difficult. And we want to make this clear that you do not get compensation for all the years that you have suffered. Yeah, people seem to think, oh, I'll get 25 years of compensation. Yeah, you will not get that. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. However, they will go back to a date, and I can't remember the exact date, whether it's 2000 and is it 2019, 80. They'll go back to a particular date in terms of how they will process your claim. And then this bit of the claim is almost falling off. So you won't get anything for that. Has that been your experience, Glenda?
No, Garrett. No. Well, no, it hasn't been that, because as long as you have got documentation to prove that you tried to regulate your status and you was rejected, then they have to go back. Especially, I've come across people who's had were sending emails and were even making payments on different times to try and find out if they could get a British passport, if they could get a status, if they could get right of abode, if they could get indefinite leave. As long as you've got that documentation, then you have every right, if they come back and they do not compensate you on that, you have every right to go through the tier 2, go for the tier 1, go for the tier 2, and demand why, because it's all documented. And this is what people have got to realize: if it's documented and you have it, challenge them, because this is part of your life. And I'm finding that that's what I've had to do on 2 or 3 occasions where we did challenge them, because they had the documents to prove they tried to regulate their status, but because of legislation, which was incorrect, they got stopped. So I would still say, if you have it and you tried, send it, because it's documents to show that you were trying to regulate your status.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. So we've just been focusing on the primary claimant, and we talk around how to actually put the claim together in terms of your personal experience, what has happened to you, what loss you suffer, right? And that principle applied to each of the claim. Yeah, and that's probably the most important aspect of the claim, is what loss, the impact on you. So the next area that we're going to look at is the claim that is known as close family. Now, close family is where family is assisting the primary claimant. And I'm going to invite Roland to come in on this one with regards to close family claim. When we say close family, we need to know exactly who qualify as close family. Roland?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay, Garrett?
Yes.
Okay. So Garrett did establish earlier primary claimant. Primary claimant, he established eligibility and entitlement. In order to be eligible, to apply to the scheme, you would have had to come from a Commonwealth country, one, before the 1st of January 1973, or you came from any country before the 1st of January 1989, or you came to the UK before you got to the age of 18 years old, and your parent or grandparent came from a Commonwealth country. Or you were born in the UK and your parent or grandparent and our grandparent came from a Commonwealth country, or they were born in the UK before the 1st of January 1989. That's quite a bit of a mouthful there. What I usually say is that if you were born in the UK and your parent or grandparent came from a Commonwealth country, you should be getting a better understanding of the scheme. If you came from any country before the 1st of January 1989, try to get an understanding of the scheme. Likewise, if you came from a Commonwealth country before the 1st of January 1973, you need to be understanding the scheme. That's eligibility and there's entitlement. In order to be entitled, you would have had to have your life impacted due to your inability to prove that you've got a right to be in the UK. Garrick did mention a number of those heads of claims being traveled outside the UK, had issues returning to the UK, working somewhere, and you were told you can't continue to work there because they were not happy with the documentation that you produce or your ability to prove that you've got a right to be in the UK. I think there are 11 or 13 heads of claim. That's the primary claimant. You've also got the deceased estate. There's absolutely no difference between a deceased estate claim and a primary claim. I'll repeat that. No difference between a primary claim and a deceased estate claim, except that that individual that would have been eligible as a primary claimant and entitled to compensation is now deceased. Close family member. You can make a claim as a close family member if a deceased individual that is eligible and entitled, you're related to them, or a primary claimant that is eligible and entitled. So which family members are we talking about when we say close family member? It's a particular group of close family members we're talking about. One, wife or husband of the deceased, as I just mentioned earlier, are a primary claimant. Or you are the parent of deceased or primary claimant, or the children of, or the siblings of brothers and sisters of primary or deceased, or you are you have lived with the primary or the deceased individual for more than 2 years in a relationship, so to speak. There is also stepchildren and step-parent, but there's a bit of ambiguity about that. I think there were some changes earlier on this year, around about the 16th. I saw it, but I tried to find it again and I can't. Okay, so I'll run through that again. Wife or husband, parent, children, siblings, someone that has lived with the deceased individual or the primary claimant in a relationship for 2 years or more. And that claim, the close family member claim, is due to how you were impacted. Primarily due to how you were impacted emotionally, anxiety, inconvenience, etc., etc. An analogy I usually use that is that you're standing at the bus stop, you saw an accident that one of your close family members is impacted and is involved in. You are that close family member at the bus stop. You were not in the accident, so to speak. However, you assisted the individual that was in the accident, your close family member, to get to hospital, etc., etc. You would have been impacted in a number of ways, impacted emotionally, caused you anxiety, stress, etc., and you would also have been inconvenienced. Also, you may have spent money in facilitating that travel to the hospital and also other things that you may have spent. That is the analogy. In the reality of the situation in many cases is that this primary claimant could have been working somewhere, lost the job, end up homeless, etc., etc. You assisted them to buy food. They may have moved in with you They increase your gas bill or your utility bill would have been increased. They may have been stuck outside the UK for whatever reason due to the Home Office's incompetence, etc., etc. You have to assist them while you're outside the UK. Once they return to the UK, you're still assisting them. That element where you assist them with living expenses is called a living expenses element for close family member. So you're a close family member and you assisted them financially. That is the living expenses element. So there are two main elements, the inconvenience and the anxiety, etc., which I suffered, which I mentioned earlier. That is impact on life. How you, the close family member, was impacted. Impact on life, emotion, anxiety, inconvenience, etc. And then there's also the living expenses element where you have to spend money on them to facilitate them their living, food, clothing, telecom, phone cards, etc., etc. When you are submitting the primary claim, I've always advised any claimant that they should not submit a close family member claim until the primary claim or the deceased estate claim has had an offer, even if it's the lowest tier level, 10,000. That would indicate that the Home Office has accepted liability somewhat. What I do not advise close family members to do is once a primary claim is in, then we start putting in a number of close family member claims because you could have wasted your energy and your effort, so to speak. Let's get that offer for the deceased estate claim or the the primary claimant before you start putting in the close family member claim. Now, it says your wife, husband, etc., is close family member. What it does not do is put a number, a restriction on how many close family members can apply. I've got cases that I've assisted on primary claim and deceased estate claim, and then comes a time when the close family member claims are to be put in. Individual had 5 children, all 5 children put in their close family member claim. 5 brothers and sisters, all 5 of them put in the claim. He got a wife that he was living with before, prior to he passing away. She too is eligible to put in a claim. Mother put in a claim. Father can put in a claim. Likewise, the individual, he got divorced, started a new relationship 2 or 3 years prior to him. He passed away because his situation lasted nearly 10 years. She too can put in a claim. So the wife can, ex-wife or former wife can put in a claim. Partner prior to him passing away. 5 sisters and brothers, siblings, they are also put in a claim. Also, the 5 children put in a claim. Also, mother and father put in a claim. What you'll also find happening in a lot of cases, one just came about a couple of weeks ago, is that when these close family member claims start being submitted, you may identify another primary claim. In one particular case, the son of this deceased individual, which triggered all these close family member claims, he too was threatened with deportation. So that it triggered, that's a primary claim there. And obviously that's going to trigger another set of close family member claim. He's the son of the deceased individual. He submitted his close family member claim. Now he's got a primary claim. What that will do is trigger another set of close family member claims for his siblings. Likewise, his mother that was divorced from her father prior to the father passing away. And in this particular case, we subsequently found out that the ex-wife, former wife, or whatever term you want to use, she too was a primary claim. That triggered a number of other claims. So in that particular family, I think there was between 18 and 22 primary deceased estate and close family member claims, totaling between 19 and 22 it could be more as well. But the reason for that is that number of the close family members are reluctant for whatever reason to submit their application. So I'll say all that to say this. When it comes to the close family member claim, there can be many close family member claims. And that's why I always say from the get-go, when you're going to submit the primary or the deceased estate claim, it's good to have a discussion among your family, among the siblings, the brothers, sisters, the mother, etc., etc. That's not the time to be holding secret. Having that discussion, be forthright and be transparent in order that whatever that primary claimant experienced or the deceased individual experienced while their lives were being impacted by the hostile environment, that should be submitted in the impact on life statement. The story that is told, and I use the term story loosely. So what happened to you? The approach I always suggest is that establish the story, establish what happened, right? Once you've established that, what happened, where they went to Ghana and he was stuck in Ghana for a number of years or months or whatever, get that established, get it clear, get the statement written down. Once that is done, try to evidence it. And Glenda and Gary, likewise Tanika, did mention that there are a number of ways you can evidence it. But first of all, understand the scheme, what the scheme is about first, right? What is relevant, what is eligible, if you're eligible to apply to the scheme, and what story, so to speak, or statement. We will try to avoid Latin and there are a number of Latin derivatives we can use. So get the statement, stroke story, and try to evidence it as you go on along. Gary did mention, Glenda did mention medical records. Sometimes you may have visited the doctor and you don't remember that you visited the doctor at a particular time. So in many cases, it's a very stressful experience. You get a medical record, then from that, you can see what is relevant, because I would not advise anyone to send the complete medical record to the Home Office. It's unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. Go through the medical record, see what is relevant, and use that to support your whatever statement. And sometimes once you've gotten the medical record, you can take the opportunity to elaborate on the statement. Elaborate, not exaggerate. Elaborate on the statement that you have submitted. And just want to touch on deceased estate. On the deceased estate claim, it may need to go through probate because there's no will. The Home Office will pay up to £1,500 for the legal cost of taking it through probate, because a number of these individuals could have passed away abroad, Nigeria, Ghana, etc., etc. The Home Office will pay those costs. I'll hand back to you at this point, Gary. If anyone want to ask any questions specifically around close family member, and as I said, I've got a number of live cases, that close family member cases that I am currently working on and I've worked on before, and a number of these have been paid out in one particular case, because numbers are important. With this particular family, with the deceased individual, with these 5 children and 5 sisters, 5 children, 5 siblings, a number of the close family members have been made offers. Number of them was impacted to that extent they had to visit the doctor, etc., etc. Number of them has been offered 40,000. The siblings, as well as mother, I think, was offered 40 as well, and a number of the children, I advised them not to accept the 40,000 offer. One of them, close family member, I'm of the belief that their impact is over 11, level 5, which is over 100,000. Nothing is fixed in stone. I'm not saying you'll get 100,000, but I'm just giving you indication as to how the scheme operates. Likewise, the guidance notes are there. There's a guidance note for each category. Guidance note for primary claim, a guidance note for deceased estate claim, and also a guidance note for close family member. And there are 2 other guidance notes. Scheme is called the Windrush scheme. And a lot of times we say the Windrush compensation scheme, but it's actually the Windrush scheme. And there are two elements to it. One, for status. Another element is a compensation element. The two guidance, case worker guidance note. One for compensation, that is 104 pages. And then there's another one of 54 pages. For a compensation, the Windrush compensation scheme, case worker guidance, 104 pages. The Windrush scheme, case worker guidance for status, 54 pages. I always suggest to claimants to understand, especially, well, for both, especially for compensation, to understand the caseworker guidance, because in these particular case, when I advise these individuals not to accept 40,000, is because I refer to the caseworker guidance, what the caseworker should be using as an actual guidance. And I wrote back to them and said, no, you're offering at this level, but based on what the caseworker guidance say, and due to the level of these particular individuals' impact, owing to the fact that they're being impacted to such an extent that their life is still being, they're having difficulty living a normal life. And I think this would be an ongoing situation. I went back to them and submitted a statement stating that this is the level they should be compensated at due to the level of impact. In a lot of cases, the caseworkers do not follow the guidance. Glenda and Garrett did touch on loss of earnings. The caseworker, and let me get this out there as clearly as possible. The caseworker guidance clearly states in basic English, the clock should start at that point where your job, employment, or whatever term you want to use, was disrupted. The clock should stop at some point after you either gain employment or you've received documentation stating that you now have got a right to work in the UK. In many cases, that is not the how the guidance is being applied by the caseworker, i.e., I don't know if Egbert is on here. We have had many discussions about this. If you were earning 20,000 per annum after tax, post tax, net, or whatever term you want to use, and due to the hostile environment, i.e., you were told that you were not allowed to continue working here because they are not happy with your documentation, and that was an incorrect decision by the Home Office, then it should be 5 multiplied by 20 equal 100, because it was 5 years you're not allowed to work for. I know, I'm well aware that the Home Office may be offering you, in some cases, even as low as 10,000, 40,000, or whatever they feel to offer you. It should be 5 multiplied by 20. I have seen cases where, due to the persistence of the representative or the advocate of the claimant, they insisted, and they did get what they were supposed to get. The calculator numbers were applied the way it should be applied. I think Jackie McKenzie did reference this weeks ago at the event we had at the Seventh-day Adventist Church a few weeks ago. I'm going to hand back to you, Garrett, at this point. Any elaboration and clarification here. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Roland. So,
Garrett, can I just elaborate on what he just said in regards to close family members? What the minimum that they do offer you is they start from 20,000 with close family members, and the maximum what we've been seeing is 40,000, sometimes above. But there's also some family members had to help the primary claimant, and what they're asking for is evidence to which is living costs. So some family members, so let's just say a mother was affected as a primary claimant, and the son was the one who had to take on all of the bills because the mother didn't have. Once they've got documentation, it could be in an email format, it could be on your bank account. They have to reimburse them because it's part of living costs, because obviously the primary claimant had no access financially to benefits, to working. So the close family member then had to support them. And I do agree with what Roland has just said. You have to push for that. Do not accept as a close family member that you did not support the primary claimant, because you did, because some people had, let's say, 4 children, and each children took it in turns to maintain their parents or their primary the primary claimant. They are entitled back to their money, and I would push for whoever does the living costs, as long as you've got permission from the primary claimant stating that this person, you have to put it in writing because that's what they're asking for now. But do push for you to get your living costs back. Any close family members who's claiming under the primary claimant, do. And every close family member who was affected, who helped the primary claimant, is entitled to put in a claim.
Yes, thank you for that, Glenda. I'm going to stick with this because there's some important points that need to, to be re-emphasized. We do need more close family members' claim being put in. So please, a lot of people are not putting in those claims, even though that they have, have been assisting family members for years. They're just not submitting the claim. So we need those claims in. So that's the first thing, try and get those claims in. Let me just add, before I ask question from the floor, let me just add some additional points that the Home Office require that you need to pay attention to. And it says, this is the minimum, and I just read this. If you do not provide the minimum information we need, we will contact you. This may cause a delay in your claim. If we contact you and you do not respond, we will not be able to take your claim further. In other words, if the Home Office have tried to contact you and you've not responded, what they're saying, right, it's down to you, right? They will not be able to take the claim further. Now, there could be reason why you're not responding, because you could have been ill or whatever. That's okay, but you need to respond. Now, evidence. Now, this is the area that we need to pay attention to. We will consider all evidence to do with the primary claimant date of arrival or date of birth in the UK, time spent in the UK, and lawful status in the UK. You should also give of your lawful status in the UK if you're applying from within the UK. Evidence can include, but not limited to, any of the following. And I'm going to do the bullet points now. We will, a current valid British passport, a certificate of entitlement to the right of abode in a current, valid, or expired foreign national passport, indefinite leave to enter stamp in a current, valid, or expired foreign national passport, an NTL no time limit stamp in a passport or biometric resident permit, a nationality status letter from the Home Office, a certificate of naturalization or registration. If the primary claimant has died, these documents do not need to be current. If you believe that the primary claimant is eligible because of their parent or grandparent, you should provide evidence of their relationship. This can include, but not limited to, any of the following: primary claimant full birth certificate, full birth certificate of the relevant parent or grandparent, the current or expired passport of the relevant parent or grandparent, which show their lawful status in the UK. And don't forget, this is the minimum evidence that they're looking for. Also, correspondence from government departments. You should also provide evidence of your relationship to the primary claimant. This can include, but is not limited to, any of the following: a marriage certificate or a civil partnership certificate, a divorce certificate, a birth certificate, an adoption certificate, and then it talks about household bill, for example, gas, electric, utilities, etc., bank statement or letter, local authority, council tax bill with joint names, rent book. Close family member must make sure two set of conditions are met as follow. And you got to tick the box. I am the mother of, or the father of primary claimant. I am the brother or sister, and so forth and so forth. So, again, the guidance is important for you to consult the guidance and follow and produce what is required. Roland?
Just an proof of ID. If you don't have your passport or a photographic ID or any of other those ID that is asked for, and you've got a letter from the Department of Work and Pension, i.e., a letter for confirming that you're on job seekers allowance. I don't know what they call it now anyway. Or universal credit or whatever, proving the amount that you're getting, or you're getting a letter for confirming the amount of pension that you're getting. Those can be used as proof of ID, not just proof of address, proof of ID. And I'm talking from lived experience here. Or in other cases, the caseworker may say you've got to get photographic documentation, passport, driving license. Got a number of those cases where I insisted that because it's actually stated in the guidance that it can be used. So I insist they take the letter from the pensions office or Department of Work and Pension and use that as ID. Obviously, you're gonna have to have your proof of address with a bank statement, credit card bill, or utility bill as well. So just that to make it clear.
Yeah, that's exactly
you don't want to be
correct.
You don't want to be delaying your claim.
No.
When and also I strongly recommend it, especially for those people outside the UK. I know we've got Sister Tolo and here from Nigeria and Sister Dorothy from Ghana as well. Is that if you can submit your claim via emailing your claim, then do that, because when the caseworkers lose your application, and I deliberately said when, it's easier for you to track, trace, etc. Submit digitally if you can, send it and scan it. And in a lot of cases, even the photographic ID, you can take a photograph or whatever ID, take a photograph of the ID, WhatsApp it to your representative or your advocates, right? And that is accepted in many cases. Just try to make it as clear as possible. When we're doing I always try to make it as easy as possible for the claimant. Got quite a number of individuals outside the UK, Jamaica, Ghana, etc. And I know it issues sometimes. It's an issue to actually get a decent internet connection. Sometimes you got to travel a couple of hours to go to an internet cafe, to scan documents, etc. When you're submitting the application, you're going to submit it via email. You do not need to print off the whole 44 pages, or in the case of a primary claim or deceased estate claim. You just print the signature page. So your advocates would email it to you, you read through it, make sure it's correct. Once you're happy with it, you send that email and have, in some cases, even WhatsApp to them confirming that you're happy with it. Print the final page. If you can't do a digital signature, I know in many cases, you got children and grandchildren, you can do a digital signature rather than have to actually do a wet signature as such. Streamline it as much as possible. Make it as simple as possible for yourself and as easy as possible, but especially for those outside the UK, whether you're a claimant or your representative. Good evening, Sister Tolo over there in Nigeria. Thank you. Back to you, Gary.
Okay, thanks for that, Roland. So, I've got the pages open. So literally what I've just read to you is page 3 of the closed family claim form, which is 3 of 24. See? And again, what Roland just said about, remember, make the point, correspondence from government department. So if you've got correspondence from government department, again, those are approved. I'm not going to go through the entire application, but you know, a lot of these boxes with the application, you have to tick which is applicable to you. So, you know, if it is the father or mother of a primary claimant, you tick that box. If it's brother or sister, you tick that box. If it's sons or daughter, the primary claimant, you tick that box. If it's husband, wife, or civil partnership, and so on and so forth, it's there. And again, you know, let's just keep emphasizing it. Please continue to read the guidance that accompany the close family claim or the guidance to any other claim, whether primary or deceased. It's exactly the same. Do read the guidance, consult the guidance. And Roland has also mentioned the benefit of reading the very long document, which is the caseworker's guidance. A lot of information there, but yes, consult that, because when you consult that, you have a good idea as to what they will be looking for when your application land on their desk. What is it that they're looking for? And if you can, you know, read that over and over and get a good sense of that, that is going to help to speed up your claim. And that's really what we want to avoid any delay. It's been said, you know, if they keep have to write back for more information, is a delay. Try and provide as much as you can with the initial application. Yeah, make it easier. Now, just before I open up the question, one important point that we need to make, and please make a note of this. The money that is being offered to the primary claimant has got no evidence, or shall we say, no impact on what your claim will be. Do not be thinking if I make a claim for close family, it's going to reduce the primary claimant claim. No, it will not. These claims will be separate. What is important, though, is for you to communicate with the primary claimant. And it is also good to know what the primary claimant has actually said in their claim. You know, what is it that they said in the claim? So this conversation is good to have this conversation so you know, what is actually been submitted. Yeah. But any offer, any payment that is made to the primary claimant, whether first offer or final offer, has got no bearing on what you would be entitled to with your claim. They are separate claims. So don't be thinking that it will reduce the primary claimant money. It will not. Yeah. So bear that in mind and tell other people about that, because it may well be that they're thinking that if I make a claim, it's going to change everything. No, that's not the case. Now, so we spoke about primary claimant and we spoke about this close family claim. And Roland also mentioned with regards to the deceased claim. And the deceased claim is really a primary claimant who have passed without making that claim. And the representative of the family will make the claim on their behalf. And there is, again, guidance for that claim. And it's important to establish, if you're making a claim for a deceased estate person, you've got to evidence it. There was years ago when this Lord Lucan disappeared from the country. Nobody know where he is, if he's alive or whatever. You can't say somebody has died without providing proof, a death certificate. Yeah. So evidence is required. And Roland did mention about this, the funds that is available from the Home Office to cover probate in order to get the documentation that the person has died, up to £1,500. And it is better for your legal representative to actually make that submission to the Home Office, so it doesn't cost you any advance money. There's no money paid in advance of getting that documentation. So if you've got a legal person dealing with that, they will deal directly with the Home Office. And so that will take away any worry about finding the money to be paid for and then being reimbursed, etc. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is to really come to you who have listened to what we presented. Any question around primary claimants? Any question around close family? Or any question on anything that you've heard around eligibility and entitlement? The floor is now open for any question. At this stage, we don't want people to share their personal situation, but any question that would clarify anything and help them, we're happy to answer those. While we're waiting for any question, Roland, is there any updates that we need to be aware of from the Home Office?
No update. I know, well, with the 24th of October last year, update there on 29th of December, and then there is the 16th of January. But I would like to make an announcement before I get to those.
We'll come to that in a moment with the announcement, because there's quite a few.
Well,
there's quite a few announcements we need to make towards the end. I just want to trigger any of the points that you've brought out in the close family claims, any clarification that's required, or any of the claims element that people need to raise, ask any question.
24th of October last year. Yeah. Those prior to the 24th of October last year, if you were born in the UK, parent or grandparent came from a Commonwealth country, you would have been eligible to apply to the scheme. However, if you were born in the UK, parent or grandparent came from a Commonwealth country, and you did not continuously live in the UK, lived abroad for a while. In many cases, some individual left here at the age of 7 or 3, 4, 5, whatever, lived abroad, and then they returned at the age of 20. They could not make a claim to the scheme for the period that they were outside the UK if their lives were impacted due to the hostile environment. However, as of the 24th of October last year, they are now eligible to apply to the scheme, and I had a number of claims which I submitted prior to the 24th of October last year of individuals that were born here and lived outside the UK. They were not continuous resident in the UK. When the change came about, the Home Office wrote to us and state that those claims will now continue because they are now eligible. Now also, the change that was made on the 29th of December last year for pension, for those people who lost out a national insurance contribution due to loss of earnings, due to employment, periods when they were not allowed to work, so to speak, because of their inability to prove that they've got a right to work in the UK. those period of national insurance contribution as will now be paid, so to speak, by the Windrush scheme, or arrangements will be made for it to be paid. I do not know the exact logistics, so to speak, or how they'll go about doing that. However, there are individuals you would have to have been compensated for that period of loss. I know there are a number of individuals that were outside the UK, but in the guidance note, I think page 49, it states that if you were outside the UK, you cannot claim loss of earnings due to the fact that you were exiled or locked outside the UK. You can claim for impact on life for that period of loss of earnings. But what that will do, it will put those individuals, those claimants, at a disadvantage due to the fact they were not compensated specifically for loss of earnings. That's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's, and there are changes that were made on the 16th of January as well. But I need to swat up on that. So
yeah, no, and those two is fine. That's all right. What we're going to do now, Roland, we've got about 10, 11 minutes or so. We're going to go into some what's on information as to what's happening in the next few weeks and months. So can you now? Can we just move into announcement now?
Hold on. Are there any questions? That's all on. Are we?
Yeah. Can you check my questions in the chat, please? I left just 2 questions in the chat there. It's me, Herman, here. Please, I would appreciate it.
Can you read? Would you like to raise it yourself?
Read it out, please.
Just read it out, please. I'm not a bit.
Roland,
do you want to read them out, Herman? Those questions?
Hold on. Yeah, it's just the comment. I just wanted to find out. Here we go. Oh, God. Yeah. All that it is, just lastly there, there's a few, but just these 2 in particular. Is anyone aware of any of the legal representatives who have had to wait for an adverse, period to be refunded because they've got involved with the probate from the Home Office? Or has it caused any issues of any legal support that any of the victims could have? Is anyone aware? I know there's a £1,500. What I'm asking is, I know they get refunded.
I understand the question.
But is there an issue with regard to people having the legal representatives having to wait such a long time where they're not getting involved with the thing because it's just too much hassle for the time they have to wait for their money? Or has this caused any problems with any of the victims? Because I just want to know, has that been an issue? Has anyone heard anyone on today's stream?
From my personal experience. Yeah, should I respond to that?
Yes, please. That's all. Just those 2 questions.
Yeah, I get you. From my personal experience, you see, it will depend on which country, but from my experience with Jamaica, in a lot of cases, Jamaican lawyers rather to be paid prior to doing the work. They rather get a retainer. In my father's deceased estate claims case, over a year now, I've been trying to get a lawyer, but at the stage now that's nearly sorted. So that's the delay usually. But what the scheme is saying, what the task force is saying, compensation task force, is ask the lawyer to produce an invoice to give an indication of the charge. But I have never gone beyond that. I don't know anyone else's experience when it comes to deceased estate. I don't know if Sister Tully has gotten any information on that, if you know of any other case, but it'd be interesting if anyone else has gotten it, experience on that. That's just my personal.
All right. Thanks for that, Roland. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Can we just deal with forthcoming events that's coming up in the next week and months, please, Roland? We got a few things to announce.
Yes. Well, first of all, there is the Floella debate in the House of Lords, Floella Benjamin. That's on the 29th.
Baroness, come use the right title. Baroness Floella Benjamin.
Floella Benjamin. 29th, which is this Thursday, there is a Windrush debate there. Is Glenda still in here?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
All right, Glenda, just hold on. Glenda and Egbert. Why I say Glenda and Egbert, Glenda is a bit further ahead than this for a number of reasons. And also, it was Egbert that brought it to my attention. And frankly speaking, Egbert is a bit further ahead with this as well in terms of his lived experience from past years or engagement that he has had with the House of Lords. So just after this meeting is finished, run about say 4:10 to 4:15, run about say 4:10. Once we have had time to have a drink, we're gonna continue and we will be specifically discussing what's gonna happen at the House of Lords on the 29th, because we're trying to get some people there. So at this point, I'm gonna hand over to Glenda and Egbert before we talk about other events. Glenda, please.
So I think
I can't hear you, Glenda. I can't hear you, Glenda.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Baroness Floella Benjamin will be discussing the Windrush compensation scheme and the status in the House of Lords. I have been asked by her to attend, so I'll be in the chambers. I'm hoping, I think she's asked for some kind of she's asked for cases to discuss and to bring up to within the House of Lords. So hopefully I will be there, and maybe perhaps at your next one I can give you a feedback on what is said and their reaction as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
We are planning. A number of us are planning to be there on the day as well to basically listen and see who is engaging on the day, and see if we can engage with them after they speak, and see what support they are willing to give. Egbert, do you want to make any contribution at this point?
We can leave it for the meeting afterwards, Roland, because Egbert is going to join the meeting, isn't he, afterwards?
Okay, we'll
all
do
right.
that. Yeah.
Okay, other events. The 9th of March, we will be at Chestnut Grove
Balham
Academy, 4 to 5 Chestnut Grove, Balham. Another Windrush compensation scheme engagement. The Windrush Community Task Force will be there. Are you going to be there, Glenda? Where's it going to be there, Garrett?
Yes, so Glenda will be attending. We've got Windrush Justice Clinic. We've got Professor Livermore confirmed, and we have Martin Ford Casey.
Okay, and then on the 22nd of June, Windrush Day, we should be over there in Ipswich. Similar event, compensation and Windrush compensation scheme engagement event. And also we're hoping to be in Bristol around about the 20th of April. That's to be fixed. And we're also hoping to be in Leeds, Huddersfield, and Birmingham. Those are being worked on as we speak. So
yeah, but Roland, you've missed out.
All these events will be on Zoom using the same link we used today. So from outside the UK, if you come across the Zoom link, please share it wherever you are in the world, whether you be in Canada, USA, or whatever. Share it on over there in Nigeria, Ghana, or wherever. Go ahead, Gary. You were going to say something.
You missed out the 20th of March in Parliament.
20th of March will be in Parliament. This one is sponsored by the SNP and SNP Member of Parliament. Garrick, would you like to say who's going to be there, or the speakers that are going to be there on the day?
Yes, so this is the new series that Justice for Windrush Generation is focusing on, Windrush versus the post office scandal. Because the post office scandal is topical and the government has moved quite quickly on this area. You notice just a few days ago, new legislation is coming out to exonerate those people who were falsely in prison, etc., and charged. And we're seeing a complete different attitude to the post office scandal in the way that the government have responded. So this will be our theme for the rest of the year. All our rallies will be focusing on this debate, this difference of approach by the government. So the SNP is the MP for Aberdeen North in Scotland. We also have Justice Clinic, and we have a number of we've got somebody from the Green Party attending, who attended in January of this year. Of concern, Patrick Vernon is also attending, and what we're trying to do with this series of rallies is to really challenge the government on the way that they're dealing with Windrush. Some of this will come out in the Lords in your debate, but it's really, we want to challenge the government. And can I just mention that the Home Office, the Post Office scandal and the Horizon, the equipment that was used for the post office is still being used by government departments. So that software is still out there being used by government departments. And I wouldn't be surprised, I haven't got the evidence of it, I wouldn't be surprised if that software hasn't been an influence for some of these decisions that has come through government. So that is the reason why we're challenging and focusing on the two scandals. March 20th, 5:30, committee room number 5, House of Commons. Egbert?
Yeah. On the point, the comparison you were just making there, Garrick, of challenging the government, I would also say the opposition, because in the past couple of days, I'm going to put a link in the chat if I can somewhere, because I think you, at some point, you guys were talking a while back of getting the Windrush solution or strategy to the attention of the Labour Party, because they're making promises to take it away from the Home Office, etc., should they win the election. I was doing some research a couple of weeks ago and I came across a document where back in 1996, with the introduction of the Immigration and Asylum Act, the Labour government promised to make changes or not implement certain pieces of that legislation, and had actually put it in their manifesto. But as soon as they came into power or government, those promises disappeared. So if we're approaching the Labour government to make changes or be more effective with the Windrush scheme and the cohorts and the whole situation, I think we should somehow, government and opposition, get a cast iron commitment from them somehow. I don't know how, but I'm just flagging it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. And so in January, our focus was on a Windrush manifesto. So that is being worked up. That will apply to, whoever wins the general election, to make sure that Windrush is in the manifesto and is addressed. So, strategically, we're onto that. And it is important, when we have these rallies, people attend, and also people share the information out there. The other thing that we try to encourage, for people to use their MP. We keep saying this, raise your concern with your respective MPs. If those MPs are getting a lot of information, right, from Windrush people, locally, regionally, nationally, that is going to make a difference to the conversation that will happen. So we need to use that mechanism. let your MP know, right, your concern, either for yourself or for your community. If we're going to speak about Windrush as a community, let your MP know. If more people will put pen on paper and do that, I think that will also help. Roland, I think we've just gone over time, 5 past, so we're going to close down. Can I just thank everyone for coming along and listening to the Sunday chat? I hope the information that we've presented has helped you. And we're back here, as I said, every month. We're here twice, second and last Sunday of each month. In between that, we have the first and third Sunday, which is the Windrush Q&A, where we ask individual to send question indirectly to Liverpool Advocates for Windrush, and so that we can research those questions in time and give you an answer. We suggest 36 to 48 hours ahead of each of those sessions to get your answer to us. And then finally, please visit the website. And on the website, we have a donate button. We want to make sure that we can sustain the work we're doing, and we can only do that with your support and with other people's support. So resources is important for donation, organization, or individual. We welcome any donations via our website. So thank you very much. For the rest of us, we're going to have a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back on the same platform here to just have a conversation about the 28th. Yeah, going to make ourselves a drink and then come back. Is that okay?
Are you keeping the line open as it is now?
Yeah, keep the line open.
Yes,
We can just turn the camera off. Roland, you can just take everybody out and just leave the ones that need to be in the meeting. Yeah, shall we say, what, 20 past? 20 past?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, 20 past. Yeah. Yeah, get yourself a drink and I'll come back. Yeah.
Sister Ivy? Sister Ivy? Sister Ivy, stay on. If you've got time, stay on, Sister Ivy. Zoom user, would you like to identify yourself, please? I may have an idea who you are, but I would like you to identify yourself. Zoom user? So Egbert.
Yes, Roland. Roland.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah, how are you?
Think I'm good. Think I'm good.
Okay,
good?
I'm just sitting here knocking out letters, so I'm working and listening.
Okay. So,
Roland, I thought, what happened with this Southwark Law Centre thing, the legal aid? I thought someone was going to be at this meeting about that today.
no, I didn't. That slipped me. Were they supposed to attend regarding what? The judicial review?
Yeah, that happened the other day. Wasn't someone going to come on board?
No, Herman.
Oh, Herman.
Yeah, we can have a quick informal chat on that. Myself and Herman will do our best to sort of give some sort of synopsis as to what
Yeah, I would
happened.
appreciate. Yeah, I would appreciate hearing about that.
Herman, can you hear me? He's probably gone to make a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not there on day one. I was there on the second day. But Herman, Herman was there on the first day.
Okay.
Okay.
Just clarification on something, Egbert.
Sorry, you
Egbert?
talking to me?
Yes, Egbert, I am. Regarding the list, the contact list, email address for the members.
Yeah.
You were saying we're talking numbers, but it's in alphabetical order. So what I was suggesting, each one or peers or whatever, take a particular letter. So I was thinking to do A, someone else do B, C, etc., etc. Then if you're doing A, you look through A, and you see whatever letter you're doing, you see any interested parties, or you just want to pick at random, but you know that you're working that particular letter. And also, if you can get others to assist you, then you do that. Herman seems to have dropped out.
Why don't you wait until they come back to the conversation, then we can talk about that? Because I won't be able to. I'm stacked up right now. What I'm doing on my side is I've selected people that I've engaged with in the past.
Okay, fair enough.
And even recently, I mean, I mentioned the other day, I met Lord Murray, the one we met at the one that was at the conference last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in the street actually. And so someone like him, because I asked for a further conversation with him on the issue, even though he's no longer part of it. So someone like him, I'm going to send an email to, bringing his attention to the debate or motion, even if he's not aware of it already, and asking him if perhaps we can have a dialogue either there or at some point after. So it's people like that I've engaged with in the past that I'm sending an email to.
Yeah.
In the hope, at the moment, I don't know if I'm going to be there, but in the hope that I will be there.
Okay.
And if I'm not there, and you guys are there, and you see them in the lobby or whatever, then by all means you can contact them, because at least I would have brought them out by contacting them. Yeah.
Let them know that we're going to be there.
Hmm?
Let them know that we will be there. I'll be there. Patrick will be there. Glenda will be there. And,
the letter I drafted for you, which you're doing, I mean, that says that we're going to be there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that says you're going to be there. So.
Yeah, so let them know that we're going to be there.
Yeah, so I won't be able to pick any letter out of the alphabet that you're suggesting. I think I've got about 15 or 20 people. And I'm sure that all of them are not going to come out. So
we may have some duplication, but it comes with the territory.
It's just irrelevant, you know. If they speak to you, and but the thing is to get them there to offer the support to Baroness Luella Benjamin, and if anything, to make them aware of the situation, because some of them are not aware of that.
Yeah, make them aware, and for them to sort of build a team within the a coalition within the House of Lords to work on the issue.
I don't know if we can go that far, but the reason why I'm saying is because in my previous experiences of being at the House of Lords and attending meetings, committee rooms, being in the gallery, watching debates, etc., going back several years, is that sometimes the chamber does get very empty. Of 700 people, you may get 30 debating an issue sometimes, which at the time I would have thought would have been great significance or great importance. And that's probably because maybe they weren't, I don't know, maybe they had other things that they were doing or whatever. But at least if they can see that people this side of the fence are seeking their interest and seeking an engagement with them on the issue, then they very well make the effort to be in the chambers to hear what the issue is about, etc., and even voice their own views, opinions, or concerns. And therefore, any future engagement with people this side of the fence could be very constructive and enlightening for both sides.
I agree.
And they've got they've got a lot of experience anyway on the issues. So anyway.
Well, Garrick said Lord Ho did get in touch with him nearly a couple of months ago at least, and he's willing to assist.
Yeah.
Well, once Garrick is back, we let he can team up with Baroness Florilla Benjamin, then that could be productive. Just them two working alongside each other could make some difference.
Yeah, anything that makes it in, because I mean, as I said, I'm not Windrush isn't my calling, but because of the experience and the implications, I mean, I'm gonna actually, where is it? I'm gonna put it in the anyway, because of the experience in and the consequences, etc., and the duration of the whole thing. I'm maintaining my interest as opposed to active diving in and digging deep involvement. I've got a lot of the information, what led to it. I've done a lot of research over the years, what led to it, how it's come about, etc. I just didn't know the scale and the depth and the breadth and the width of the impact and the individuals involved. But as you were saying earlier in the meeting, the scheme or the design of the scheme itself is questionable.
Let's pause a bit. Pause a bit, Egbert, please.
Okay,
Gillian, can you hear me? It's rolling. Gillian, can you hear me? Unmute yourself, Gillian, please. Yeah, Gillian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you take your camera off, please?
Okay, 1 minute. 1 second. I'm gonna take it off. 1 minute. Whoops. Wrong thing. Okay, give me a second doing that.
Okay, I think.
Okay, I've done that.
So, Gillian, the Sunday chat is over. What we're going into now is what we're going into now is a discussion about the event, the debate at the House of Lords on the 29th, this Thursday, the Windrush debate, led by Baroness Florilla Benjamin. Did you hear that? Gillian, did you hear what I just said? Gillian. Egbert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. So yeah, I like to listen to that.
Okay, so but you can listen in, and if you, are you in the UK?
No.
Okay, all right, okay. But anyway, you can listen in because we want as many people to understand what's going on as possible. So, and I know you're it's very much relevant to you and your family. So we took a comfort break, and we're gonna start. What time did Garrick say he's gonna start at Egbert?
20 past now. Yes, 20 past now.
All right. So who is gonna cheer? Do you want to cheer, Garrick?
I'm only gonna be here for 10 minutes, Roland. I'm in the kitchen doing something. So
okay. Glenda or Egbert, would you like to cheer?
Not me. No, I can't. Not me.
Okay,
I'll let
Glenda, would you like to cheer?
No, I don't know what I'm cheering on, to be honest. So if you just go and if I'll jump in when I can.
Okay. So.
Oh, Glenda sounded like a politician there.
Roland, maybe you should do it because you and I have had a conversation already around this. So
okay.
Yeah.
So on Thursday the 29th, which I do not know the time. Do you know what time this will be, Egbert?
Yeah, hold on.
11:45. 11:45.
11:45. At 11:45 in the House of Lords, there will be a debate. I'm not sure if debate is the right term. I don't think it is, but anyway, debate, a Windrush debate led by Baroness Flohela Benjamin. A number of us hope to be there on the day because the debate in Windrush and the Windrush scheme will be debated. Well, a number of us are planning to be there on the day, and the idea is for us prior to going there to send out some email to send out email to as many members of the House of Lords as possible, encourage them to be there on the day and engage, speak on the cause or on the issue. Idea of us being there is to identify who is speaking on the matter, on the cause, and engage them once they are finished speaking and ask them for their support going forward. That's the general gist of it. That's the general idea, really. Am I about right there, Egbert?
Yeah.
Right. Would you like to elaborate? Because this was brought to my attention by Egbert, and he gave some good ideas, and he has got experience for years engaging with the House of Lords. So, would you like to elaborate?
Let me tell you how this came about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I subscribe to several subscriptions from Parliament and or other organisations to do with politics. Not because I'm interested in politics, but because I'd like to know sometimes what they're doing as it relates to legislation, new, old amendments, etc. Yeah, and the debates that happen. So one of the subscription that came about is what's forthcoming events in Parliament, and on that it mentioned the Windrush debate raised by Baroness Flohela Benjamin. Yeah. My thought process was, well, here is something that we've been picking around the edges, getting frustrated about, etc., etc. So let me have a conversation with people who may be interested in attending the event to see, not jump in at anybody, but just to see what's being discussed. Maybe we could fill gaps in Baroness Benjamin's knowledge, etc., etc., and other people who will be speaking. I think one of the other speakers, or someone who's put their name to speak, is Simon Woolley, who used to be chair of Operation Black Vote. I know Simon, and there are a couple of other individuals there that I know and I've engaged with in the past, not particularly on Windrush, but on other matters and aspects of. So what I then did was I spoke with you on that, and I said, look, Roland, here is something that's happening. I know there are people in the Lords who are aware of Windrush, aware of the history. I've got transcripts of Hansard's where they've had endless debates on it and other issues. How about we use this opportunity to attend the debate, contact some members of the House of Lords, some or as many as possible who we may know, who we may like to know and engage with on the issue, raise the awareness, and also give support to Baroness Flohela Benjamin and the chair for raising the issue and trying to get it up there on the same level as the post office. Ideally, I would like the government to initiate some kind of legislation, fast track, and say, look, let's resolve this issue by this, bum, 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 bum. And if anyone in the Lords, as many of the 700 as we can reach out to, could bring about something like that, then wonderful. You know, we can move on with this, we can close on, we can look after our descendants and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. So, because I was pushed for time, I asked you, we had a conversation, you said, great idea, you reached out, I made a suggestion, contact so many people in the House of Lords, or contact as many as possible. Here are the links, these are the people in the Lords, this is how you can contact them, this is the letter that we could write to them, a drafted, etc., asking for support, asking for post-motion debate engagement, and let's see where it goes from there. Feed it out to the Windrush cohorts and see what it comes back. Now, you said to me that Glenda Caesar here, I think, or Glenda, whichever one, is
Then
aware
the
of the
fees are here.
debate, right, is aware of the debate, and has been invited by Provider Benjamin. Wonderful, no problem. He's going to be in the chambers, no problem. I'll be in the gallery. If I'm there, we'll be in the gallery, 5, 6, or how many of us. And whoever speaks, or whoever asks questions, or whoever shows an interest, express an interest or knowledge or whatever, then great, we engage with them, because at the end of the day, the Lords are not elected, the government is, but they are very powerful, and they are very, very, very experienced on lots and lots and lots of things. Many years ago, I had a situation where I was going through a personal situation, and I came across a crop up with the my entitlement as an example to unemployment benefit. It was being insisted, this was during the Windrush era, or elements of leading up to, it was being insisted that I had no right to unemployment benefit, having worked in the UK at that time for about a good 30 or 35 years without claiming benefits, at least long term. I was offended. I took myself down to the House of Lords, discussed it with a few people, blah, blah, blah. They put through papers, they used their mechanisms, and within a couple of weeks, the House of Lords and the government had sent down a direction to the DWP, or the JCP as it was then, that said, even if someone is living on a park bench, as I practically was, they are entitled to unemployment benefit. Once you receive unemployment benefit, it then opens the doors for housing benefit. Now, that wasn't for my benefit. I did this in the interest of every single taxpayer in this country, because that's the kind of a loophole that governments, when they're passing laws, do not consider, do not think, because they are living in castles. We are living on the streets, yeah, comparatively. So they may not have the intricate knowledge. Some of them have never been unemployed in their lives, yeah, so they may not be aware of that kind of omission and the implications of it. So that's what I'm saying. That's the kind of logic and reasoning behind my suggestion to contact the House of Lords to get support for Baroness Benjamin and the Windrush situation. And that's it. If we can do it, great. If it works, great. And I'm glad that Glenda's going to be there. Is that clear? Any questions?
Can I just, Roland, can I just say that Baroness Floella Benjamin, she had contacted organizations via Twitter, not much, I think maybe about 3 or 4 different organizations, to submit her with some cases so she could discuss it, have a strong feel of what's actually going on in the community and how these people were affected. She contacted the Windrush Justice Clinic, AIDS UK. I think she met with Patrick Vernon, Colin McFarlane. I wasn't there, but she sent me a message saying, I want you there. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. No, WNO was not included, Herman. They were approached, but I think their response was a little bit too late. But they didn't know that I had been in. She'd asked me to come into the chambers with her. So she has had some. Can I say some cases have been presented to her, and they're not all the same. They're all different. Mine is not presented because it doesn't need to be presented. It's open to the public. But I have presented her with some cases as well, close family members, deceased, people born in this country who were affected as well, young people who were affected. So I think she's got a lot of information that she hopefully she will discuss when she does her debate. And also I'm hoping that afterwards I get to meet up with some of them and I can sort of like discuss whatever you feel needs to be said to her directly, as well as approaching her. So just to let you know what the position is.
Yeah, thanks for that. For me, from my knowledge perspective, the thing is, I've got nothing to say or query or question anything at all on that. Is that the way I look at it, that Baroness Benjamin, I wouldn't even begin to suggest overwhelming her. It's like if we are there observing, but the way I look at it is to spread the load. If she's leading and we can get other members of the House of Lords I can reel off names to support what she's trying to do. If you've given her half a dozen cases, and Roland engages with 2 or 3 others, and he gives 2 or 3 others another half a dozen cases, and it spreads out, then they get a bigger picture. They get a wider picture, because every individual case is different. But throughout all those cases, there's going to be a common thread.
Yeah.
And that common thread, from what I've been looking at for years, is going to be one aspect of it is going to be the 1996 Immigration Act and changes. It's going to be elements of the Identity Act proposed by Lord Blunkett at the time. It's going to be good characters, as the case of Van Riel, when people were, like in my status, as an example, being a Guyanese passport holder, but British born, and moving into that transition to British citizenship, British passport, and I got a bad character stain on my name, that wouldn't have happened, those kind of things. You see what I'm saying? So there'll be lots and lots of common threads throughout the whole thing. So if we spread the load and contact as many people as possible, Baroness Benjamin is not going to take it on board, I'm sure she won't, but many, many, many more questions will be asked and can be asked, and people will be empowered and enabled to keep the pressure on the government now and future about getting this thing right. Because from what I've been hearing for 2 years now, it's not right. We're not happy about it. MPs have said that, Lords have said it, but we are being asked to tag along. Great, we'll tag along, we'll play along, we'll get it resolved, but let's make these people happier. You know, that's all.
Garrett's got his hands up.
Yeah. I won't be present at the event. I'm in London, but I'll be somewhere else all day. I had a conversation with Roland about the approach that we might want to consider. So the idea of this meeting is to identify people, to get people from the Lords into that session. Yes. The task that we have, I think Roland already have a conversation with Egbert and with Erman about identifying how we identify from the 700 members of the Lords, how to identify and target people to invite them into that session for them to attend. Now, initially, Roland and we had an idea that Roland will do from 1 to 99 or 1 to 100. And then I would pick up 101 up to 200. So that was an idea. What we need to be thinking about is what mechanism we're going to be using, what criteria to target members into that session. So we need a good mixture of Lords. So you've got Labour Lords, you've got Liberal them, because Baroness Benjamin, she's from the Liberal Representative Party, etc. Then you have the Conservative Lords member, and then you have crossbenchers. Yeah. So we need to be thinking of how we target a mixture, because throughout our campaign rally, we reach out to cross-party MPs because we want to get this conversation into as many places as possible. So how are we going to target the members of the Lords to attend that event? That's the first thing that I want to get out of this. And Roland was suggesting an idea of if somebody was to do all the A's or all the B's or so forth. I don't know if that will work. I think what we need to do is to look at the membership and then decide who's going to target crossbenchers, who's going to target Liberal, who's going to target Labour, who's going to target Conservative, and do it that way. Because is a lot of people to target, and we only got, literally 2 days to get information out to them for Thursday. So, that was really what we had this conversation about, how we're going to do that.
Can I say something, Garrick?
Go on.
When I got the information, when I got the notification, I spoke with the House of Lords, and I hear what you're saying, I understand what you're saying. And what I asked them was there a way that I could ask them to send an email to every single member of the House of Lords, because they've got an internal system of doing that.
Yeah.
But they said yes, but the House of Lords operators won't do that on behalf of members of the public. They've got an internal mechanism which they use, and they put up a notice of forthcoming debates and motions, etc. And what they do is what Floella Benjamin is going to be speaking about on Thursday, every single member of the House of Lords is aware of it. Right. It's flagged up on their internal system.
Right.
Now, if a member of the House of Lords, and I can send you a link for where that comes up on the events page, if a member of the House of Lords puts their name down to speak, then that will come up at some point within the 48 hours or 5 days or whatever before the actual debate.
Yeah.
By Tuesday, Wednesday, we will know who will be speaking. So my thought process was not to single out members of the Lords by association. That's my own thought. Was just to send. Personally, what I was doing was picking people that I've engaged with in the past.
Yeah.
As an example, Lord Falconer, he was the Lord Chancellor in the Labour government era. He did some things which I was engaging with him on, and I will speak to him about human rights and legislation, etc., etc. I would engage with him and ask him to be there because it has an implication, So what I would suggest is like what you said, either go with A, B, C, bearing in mind the time, or go through the Lords and people that you recognize because they may have done a good deed, they may have done something they had a position in the government past or currently, or people you may want to know, the bishops, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Bishop of Liverpool, Bishop of Durham, Bishop of Manchester, they're all members of the House of Lords. Email them, mention the post office scandal and say, look, this is the comparative. Can you please be there because we want to get it on the same wavelength, on the same level, But I don't know how. It's the time scale, also,
Yeah. So having said what you've just said, so the fact is that the information is already in the Lords. That information is out there, so it's gone to them. So the next thing would be, so that would alleviate us, doing that, because they all will have the information about this event.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's get a bit of clarification here. Sorry for interrupting. Are we saying that Alfred already got the information, so we don't need to send these emails?
No. What they've got is I'm sure. Let me try and find the links. They have got notification of the debate.
Yeah.
And how the House of Lords process works, the motion and debate, is with that debate, they've got a list. I've got an explanation.
Okay, I get that.
So hang on, Roland. I've started, so I'll finish, as they used to say.
Yeah.
But they've got an explanation of the Windrush scheme and all the details of it and what the problems are, what the issues, the compensation, the history of it.
Yeah.
And that's been sent out, or it's on a system there which they can all log in to see on this. On Thursday, here's the debate about Windrush. What's it all about? Go down, pick up, blah, 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 blah. Now, if they want to speak in that debate, then they put their name forward. So they've got the information. The objective, from my perspective, my thought process, was to actually get them into the chamber so they can either hear the debate or be part of the debate. And once they're in the chamber and they are there, then we can develop a relationship following on the contact.
Agreed. So we need to send them some emails. Do we agree on that?
Yes. Send them the email.
All right. Can we decide now? Are we at the point where we can decide now how we're going to go about sending these emails?
No, we're not.
No, that's the
Roland?
conversation. That's the conversation that I was hoping that we could,
All right.
focus on.
Right. Okay.
You know, and how do we identify, how are we going to do it?
Right. We're gonna need some hands on board, right? What I suggested is, right, someone do, because they're in alphabetical order, right? One particular person say, okay, I'm gonna do A, right? If you've got that particular person that's doing that whatever letter, if they can bring others on board to assist them, that's good. Then they go through the list and prioritize that list. That's my suggestion.
When you say if one person take, let's say, A as their cohorts, and say, okay, that is, now there could be 100 people in that A or 90 people, with that A. How do we do all 90, or do we select from that?
No, you wouldn't have to do all 90. Well, let me move this along a bit. We've got a WhatsApp group, right?
There's some noise going on. I can't hear properly.
Well, let me identify who is making the noise. Because we're gonna have to, get this moving, and we're gonna have to be doing some lot of communicating going forward if we're gonna get this done. Right. There's a WhatsApp group, right, that is set up for this particular task, sending this email out. Okay. Can I just go through each names and ask if they're willing to be? I mean, Herman, you're in that group already. Glenda Caesar, you're not in that WhatsApp group. Are you okay for your name to be put in the WhatsApp group?
There's not much I can do this week. I'm tied up completely until the date that I have to go up to thing. Otherwise, I would have said yes. But I don't know any lords. I only know Doreen Lawrence and Floella Benjamin. But I'm present, so all I can do is verbal. That's, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's okay, Glenn. Can I ask you a question? If I was to, I've got a list of the people in the House of Lords now, all right, up on my screen, all right? If I was to shout out a name to you, have you ever heard of the Bishop of Manchester? Do you know who he is?
I know the Bishop of Manchester.
Okay, well, there you go. Very easy. Let's say Lord Adibawali. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I know of him also.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people, there would be in that list that, individual laws that we know. Yeah. What I was trying to get to is, what is our approach? Is it the people that we know, or are we going to just take some random people that we don't know, but we think we'd like them to, from their profile or whatever, we think we'd like to invite them. I just want to know the process.
Well, my initial thought process was to select individuals in the Lords who may have an interest. And because I've done engagement with quite a few of them before, my further process was, why be selective? Why not send to all of them and ask them, in effect? I think, Roland, you've got the letter. Maybe you can send it out to Glenda and Garrick.
I've got it. I've got it.
Okay, and ask them to be there. Send as many as we can between now and Thursday. Maybe someone can start from A and someone can start from Z, and someone can be in the middle. Or, if the time is of the essence, go through and pick people that you may have heard of, you may have known, you would like to know, you may like to meet, etc. It doesn't matter. It's just an approach is, if the chamber accommodates 700 and we can get, by approaching 200 or 150 or 300, that's a lot better than Simon Woolley and Baroness Floella Benjamin talking to each other in the chambers about Windrush.
Okay.
Hold on, Garrett. That's all that, because Sister Ivy has got her.
What I'm going to say, I'm going to hear from Sister Ivy, and then Herman. We need to hear from as well.
Sister Ivy, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you for the invitation to listen in. A point that I'm following in terms of when a debate is taking place, whether the House or they're in the Lords, it is the individuals who have expressed interest. And one of the way I know things have been done in the past, if we draft a email or a letter, a kind of pro forma, you just need one email. And Egbertus talk about the list that when you have an email, you can send it to 100 people at a time. So that's what you have already said. And it's the same thing I have put up in the WhatsApp group. And I sent the letter with, or the link showing all the MPs and their ward. And if we were to draft that letter so that when you go to, send to individuals, say you can get a copy of this letter, so you can copy and sign this letter and send it to your MP. The MPs are like obliged to reply. Before you know it, you would have the opinion of all those MPs. Then you are building up how many people will support the Windrush cause, taking the interest that you're putting, and when it comes to a vote, you would know because they would have been replying to their constituent members. And the same thing go for the House of Lords, as we consider that.
All right, Ian, can I just respond to that? We have already got the email. We've got an email already. Okay. Secondly, we with the MPs, I'm not sure for the House of Lords, I think it'll be the same thing. The MPs do not like to be CC'd in.
No.
Bulk email to be, because it's very impersonal.
Yeah.
So
sorry, Roland, can I correct you?
Each member of their constituent will send that email directly to them. There is no CC all of them want. Egbert has explained that within the comments, so if whichever of the MP or people have access to that email, it goes to everyone, just like how you send an email in your WhatsApp group. That's their WhatsApp group, basically.
Okay, noted.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to Egbert. Go ahead, please.
No, what I was going to say,
Ivy.
what Ivy is saying, the thing about the MPs are different, Ivy, from the basis. If we send an email, MPs will only respond to their constituents because there's something called parliamentary protocol. If we send a blanket email to everybody in the House, every MP, those that are not the constituent, they will not respond. That's the first thing on there. So it has to be coming from the constituent. And if the constituent is a Windrush victim or cohort, even better. The House of Lords, however, is different. The parliamentary protocol doesn't apply as such, and they are still open for approaching. And they have interests that span lots and lots of things. My thought process objective is the debate is going to happen. Many may or may not have heard of it or have an interest in it or whatever, etc. How do we get them into the chambers on that day to support and ask questions, be enlightened, and engage with us after Florella has opened the door? That's my prime objective. How we do that, we write a letter, send them an email, ask them to be there, and ask to meet with them after, and ask to support us and Florella after the debate is over. That's it. Simple thing.
Right.
So
Roland, can I hear from Erman, please? Any idea before we sort of, so at least everybody's made a contribution.
Well, I'm here. It's a good idea, obviously, with the House of Lords. It's a time factor, and it has to be said, and that's got to be, because obviously, it's all right. Sometimes I suppose this might be a case of never mind the quality filled with, so to speak. But looking at that, really, I know I could really talking about something like this being in their mailbox tomorrow morning. That's what you're talking about, to give them enough time as well, because they have plans as well with other things. So that's it. I agree with a lot of, but there's no bad ideas here. What anyone is saying as such. I think there's time constraints.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then how to get that over. I mean, if they're in the House of Lords, they really need to know about Windrush issues. Some of the, and especially it's been, reawakened with some of the post office issues recently. I'll be very, very surprised because I was down there, Westminster, and I went to the Judicial Review for 1.5 days. And funnily enough, despite Assange, there's a lot of stuff about Windrush and the post office and the blood plasma screen. But I know I've got a bit of angles there, so people are aware about it. But it's actually, getting the right amount of people there. And I understand what Egbert says. It's not like an empty chamber, 2 or 3 people talking to one another, less than half a dozen, or maybe just 1 or 2 of the usual suspects, so to speak. And that in its sense, that's another real resonance getting through with media as such. What can we actually sort of do? So I'd rather send off with regard to people who I know as well, and ones who I could recognise in the list. Yes, in the list. And hopefully they're not as strict as like some MPs are just interested with regard to their constituents. I know many of them have a wider one. So there's work I've done with Reverend Beswick. I'll be going for like virtually anyone from the Church of England, because I know they've been quite good speaking up on Windrush issues, anything with immigration and asylum and so forth. They're giving the government a run for their money in the House of Lords on this thing, for Rwanda and so forth. So that's, I think, where we need to be pitching our fork, basically. Anyone rare in the immigration area, they get it. Yes. There may well be particular laws to represent areas where there's high populations as well, with regard to people from Windrush communities as well. Their interests. I know there's Lord Harris of Haringey. I'll be hammering him. It's another lady who's been made in the House of Lords. I'm not too sure. Dames aren't in the House of Lords, are they? Do they actually have seats in the House of Lords, dames, or is it only baronesses?
Some of them do. Some, I think.
Some do. I know 2. But they may well be able to give me some leads of people who are interested. But you see, we're talking here now, it's going 5 o'clock Sunday evening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me to talk, to ruffle the feathers of their sort of good ladies now, or gentlemen. Herman? So that's all I really have to add, really. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much for the bit of support there. Let me give you an example of something. Someone that I was going to contact, absolutely. And this is why I've picked a list of people I've engaged with, is Una King. Yeah? Used to be the MP for Whitechapel area, up before George Galloway, etc., etc. I've met Una so many times, walking about in the street. We've walked and talked with her children, had conversation, walked by the road with her husband. And she is someone that I know, right, who would have an interest. Maybe she's got the notification, but has anyone approached her to say, look, can you please give us a hand with this? There's Herman Ousley, who used to be head of the CRE. There's Baroness Amos. There's Baroness Scott. There's so many people out there.
You're right. I know those as well.
There's Baroness Swarsty. There's so many of them. But even if we go through, I can pull out 20, 30 that I can probably email. If you go through, as Herman said, recognize names. Yes, I can drop them an email. Not an issue. Spend a couple of hours tonight and tomorrow doing it. Come Tuesday, they've got it in their box. And if Garrick does the same, Glenda does the same, Ivy does the same, everybody does that, and some friends do, you may well get a chamber filled with 300 people between 20 of us. It's 15 each. It's not a big task.
Can I come in there, please?
Sure.
Right, that's the approach that's going to be taken. But how do we avoid, with that approach, how do we avoid duplication?
Doesn't matter, because you may know, Herman's just mentioned Lord Harris of Haringey, yeah, he knows him. He said he'll be battering him for one reason, from one perspective. I know him from another walk of life, so it doesn't matter. Here is Herman, here is Edward asking me the same thing. Let me go and see what it's all about.
Let's be mindful of time. Let's be mindful.
That being the case, that solved the issue, because repetition for emphasis. If they get three letters, it may be more effective than getting one letter.
Thank you.
Okay, just let's pin something down here, because we've got to be mindful of time. So we're gonna just go with, I get the list, identify anyone we know, familiar with, etc., etc. We're gonna take that approach. Is that it?
Yeah,
go with that.
That's an easy way to manage it.
Hold on, Gary. So we agree on that. The next question I'd like to know, because communication going forward among ourselves is very important. Okay, Sister Ivy, are you happy to be in this WhatsApp group? Sister Ivy? I'll come back to you, Sister Ivy. You probably have audio problem. Right. So we've got a letter that's already drafted. I got an email that's already drafted. I'll drop that email in the WhatsApp group, and I'll also put the links, the relevant links there. Can we all agree on that?
Yep.
Okay. So the email just to streamline the whole process.
Sorry, I've just put a link in the chat explaining about the, showing what the House has put out about the debate on Thursday. And already it is listed for the speakers.
There are 4 speakers there already. Okay,
Yes,
Sister Ivy. Sister Ivy.
Yes.
Yeah, because what we're doing
information.
here, we're going to need to be doing it going forward. There's a WhatsApp group that we have set up that we can communicate among each other. Are you happy for me to put in that WhatsApp group?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I will put in the WhatsApp group.
Roland,
all right.
Roland, sorry to jump in, but can I just say one thing? The link that Sister Ivy has just put in, yeah, if you click on that link, yeah, if you click on that link, and then you go down to where it says event briefing,
yeah,
library briefing, go down to the bottom, explore background information, and if you click on library briefing, yeah, and you scroll down past the picture of the statue, it gives the whole thing, the whole history of Windrush.
Yeah.
So that's what the Lords get, and that's what they can click on any section they want, and they can get history, background, etc. So they've got all the information, yeah. And Glenda's going to be going there, giving them cases, yeah. What we are doing is we're saying, okay, please go there. We also want to engage with you, and we ask you to support Baroness Benjamin and us. And if it's people we know or people we identify or recognize, etc., let's go with it.
Yeah, and that's what the email says. Okay, so the WhatsApp group, I'll drop the email there. And if there's anyone in here think that should be in the group, then let's discuss it, drop some suggestions in the group, and they too can join the group if they've got a positive contribution to make.
And you see, if you go down to the bottom, you will see the House of Lords Twitter group, Facebook group, and we can put it there. Everyone will see it. So the invitation inviting them, just you put it on their Facebook group or put, have you ever engaged and like or see the MP, you see what they're following, what they're supporting, what they're talking about. So we want to see the ones who are actively supporting minorities and such, and then we can engage with them directly there.
Okay, good. So Sister Ivy, once you set up the WhatsApp group, the same suggestion and ideas that you've got here now, please drop them in the WhatsApp group that we can use it to streamline the whole process between now and Thursday.
So, Roland, I'm going to start tonight and tomorrow. That's the only time I can give to this. So
that's
literally, okay. I will do my identification and quote tonight and tomorrow and get that off to members of the Lords.
Okay, so we'll continue this discussion in the WhatsApp group. I've got a couple of other people that I'm going to bring to the WhatsApp group that are willing to assist with sending off the emails as well and be taking part in the discussion between now.
If we're able to even get 10 out of 100, if we can get 10 to attend the debate, that's an achievement rather than nobody.
We want as many as possible to attend the debate.
Yes,
absolutely right. Absolutely right, Garrick. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't worry about duplication. Let's just, I have a lot of people that Floella, I've been communicating with her for the last 2 years. She's well aware of the work we're doing. So does Baroness Lawrence. So there's lots of people already connected with over the last 2 years. All I need to do is just to expand those numbers.
And can I just ask a question? Is Baroness Amos in on this?
I will target her as well.
Because I know she was, she was mentored to
Yeah,
my
and I've
family
communicated
member.
with
And
her
she's very good
previously.
with the young, especially the effect in terms of education on the Windrush children,
Yeah,
not
But
able to
Ivy,
have further
Ivy,
education.
yeah,
if you know her, by all means, drop her an email. I'm going to drop her an email.
yeah.
Yes, because she is in, supporting
Yeah.
young
And
people
listen,
education.
let me just say this. We
Yeah.
just don't want black people in the Lords, right?
Absolutely.
Right. We want white people in the Lords as well as black people.
You mean members of the House you're talking?
Member
Yeah.
of the House, yes.
Right.
Members
Can
of
I
the
ask a
House.
question here? In terms of numbers, members of the public, how many will be allowed? How many is allowed?
You're not allowed in there.
No.
No, I mean, no, I mean in the
Roland.
yeah.
Roland.
Public not
Yeah.
Roland. The gallery of the House of Lords
We have to book.
is a public place, same as in the House of Commons. As many people as possible can go into the gallery. Yeah.
Right. So,
but my personal view is
mhm,
because of the sensitivity of what's going on in Parliament at the moment,
mhm,
and the security and the debate and the nervousness, I
mhm.
would limit the numbers to about half a dozen or so, in case anyone feels overwhelmed with 30 or 40 people in the gallery. Yeah.
Okay.
But if 30 want to go and attend and 30 want to engage, I've got that's just my process is a dozen people sitting there watching the debate and engaging with the Lords after is great. 50, 100, that's my
Okay.
thought.
I've got
I
to go
understand.
off now, guys. So
Can I just say something, please?
yeah.
Would we have to be there about an hour beforehand? An hour
I would
before the
suggest that's a
debate?
good idea. Mm.
Right. So,
Before you say that, can I say, from what I understand, that the process is that there's the business, and then they start debating. Even though Glenda said it may be 11:15, yeah, it may not be until 1 o'clock. Depends on how the previous business goes.
Okay.
right.
But
Thank
So
you.
from here,
Bye, Garrick.
Okay.
who here will be attending?
I would like to attend. Herman, I would like to attend.
I won't be there. I said I'd be somewhere else
Yeah,
on that day.
I know. We know Garrick.
I'm
Sister
gonna try and
Ivy.
be.
Sister Ivy.
I've got prior appointment for Thursday.
So you will
Already
not be there. Okay.
did
All
my
right.
bypass.
So
I'm gonna try and be there.
right. So
Remember, we were talking about that group of 6. Remember, you've got the delegation coming along from Southwark Law Centre. I think Glenda said there's about 4 officials, about 2, 3 people coming from the Southwark Law Centre. Yes,
that's fine.
So
that's
that would
fine.
that might be enough if only about 4 of us turn up, basically.
Let's double the number to 12 and say if they've got 4, maybe 8 of us can go.
Well, I'm just thinking we've got to be careful of that, but
Okay,
I understand what you're saying. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
right. So hold on.
Au revoir.
So okay. We continue this in the WhatsApp group.
Roland, not too much, but yeah, I'll try and respond if I can. All right.
Yeah. Further communication will be in the WhatsApp. We communicate going forward in the WhatsApp group.
Okay. I'm going to sign out, and I'll see you on Thursday if I'm there. All right.
I'll drop the email in the WhatsApp group and whatever links, Sister Ivy, drop your links and ideas, suggestions in the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
There'll be a couple other people that will be in the WhatsApp. I'll add to the WhatsApp group.
I will do.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye.
Have a pleasant evening, everyone. Bye.